All right, we are picking up. We are right before the lines start to get wide. The middle lines. We are 2, 4, 4. We're 5 lines from there by the 2 dots. So the Gemara had said, the Mishnah had said, that on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos mincha. So you read 3 people are called up. They're supposed to be to read them from the Torah. So Hani Shlosha connected me. Who are the 3 people that are getting the Aliyah? Who are they like? Who are they corresponding to? Ravasi. Keneged Torah, Nevi'im, Meksubim, Keneged, it's Tanakh. So the first, the Kohen is Torah, Nevi'im, Meksubim. Rava Amar, Keneged, Kohanim, Levi'im, Shalem, Keneged, the 3 different tribes that there are in Klal Yisrael. Elahad, Tani, Rav Yosef, and what about, what? I'm sorry, Elahad Tanu Rav Simi, and it's not asking a question here. Ella is just asking. There was another question he asked. Elahad Tanu Rav Simi, Ein Poschem Yub Psukim beBeis HaKnesses. You're not supposed to read less than 10 Psukim when you're in the Beis HaKnesses. So who is that corresponding to? And by Daber Olam and Aminyan, and when it says that even a pasuk, I don't want to say it's simple, but a pasuk that's saying Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, that's not saying anything. It's just transmitting over who is speaking. So and that counts in the psukim. So those 10 psukim, Hani Asar Keneged me. Who is that corresponding to? Armi Abishua and Levi Keneged Asar Batlan and Shavei Saknes. It's the 10 Batlan. If you remember, we spoke about it in the first parak. I think it talked about that there were 10 people who didn't work. They would sit in the base medrash, and they were there for tzar ketzibur. They were there for when there was a minyan that was needed. They were there so they could be learning. So the 10 psukim are connected, the 10 batlanim that every city was supposed to have, that would be there so to take care of the holy things that needed to be done. Rav Yosef Amar, Keneged Asara Hadibros Shenev L'Moshe B'Sinai, that the 10 psukim correspond to the Asaras Hadibros. And Rabbi Levi Amar, Keneged Asara Hilul and Shamar David B'Sefer Tehillim, Keneged the 10 Hallelujahs that in Tehillim. And it said, Rashi said, there's not 10 kapitel Tehillim that start with Hallelujah, but they start and end. It's 5 that start and end, so that's 10. So it's connected those 5 that have Hallelujah starting in the beginning and at the end. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Keneged Asar Mamaros Shemem Nivra Olam, that is connected the 10 Mamaros that the world was created with. So Haini, and what are the 10 Mamaros that the world was created with? So it says Vayomer de Bereshis. When it says Vayomer in Bereshis, the beginning of the parsha, it says Vayomer that Vayomer Hashem that there should be this, Vayomer Hashem there should be that. So those are the 10 Mamaros that the world was created with. So Gemara asks, Hi Tisha Havu, but if you go back and look in Parshas Bereshis, it doesn't have 10 Vayomers, it only has 9. So where's the 10th one come from? The Gemara answer is Bereshis Nami Maimerhu, that when it says Bereshis Bar Elokim Es Hashemayim Ve'es Haaretz, so Bereshis, when it says that, that is also considered to be one of the Mamaros that the world was created with. And how do we see that? The Chsiv, because it says in the pasuk, B'dvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu V'ruach Piv Kol Tzavam, that with the word of Hashem, the Shemayim was made, and He breathed into the mouth of everyone. So you see that B'dvar Hashem, just Hashem speaking, that was enough to create things. So Bereshis Bar Elokim, in the beginning Hashem created. That's also considered one of the Amaros, that the world was created with. Okay, so now we're going to spend the next Amud or so talking about how would you take these. Actually, we're first going to go about into who in the days of yore. Okay, it used to be that you would have the first person would make that people when they would get up to when they be called up for an aliyah. First of all, only the first person would make an aliyah, and the last person would make an aliyah. The middle people did not make brachos. Secondly, the people that would go up there, they would actually learn from the Torah. It's not like they would have a Baal Koreh and they'd be standing next to him. They were the ones that were reading from the Torah. So first thing I was going to talk about, what were these people that were called up? What did they do? Amar Rava, Rishon Shekara Dal, and again, remember, there's 10 psukim. We're assuming that there's 10 psukim that have to be lane, because every time you lane, the minimum laning has to be 10 psukim. There's one exception to that rule. The exception to that rule is on, hint, we just had it, Purim. Purim is 9 psukim. Vayava Amalek, which is, again, my bar mitzvah parsha, is, if you count from Vayava Amalek to the end of the parsha, is only 9 psukim. And they say that because it's only one it encompasses one subject matter, so it's okay to do 9 psukim to be able to do that. It's the only time that when you're taking out a Torah lane that you're going to have less than 10 psukim. So, Amar Rava. Rishon Shekara Dal Meshubach. If the first person got up to lane, and again, we're assuming that there's only 10 psukim that he's laning. If the first person got up and he read 4 psukim, that's praiseworthy. Sheni Shekara Dal Meshubach. If the second person read 4 psukim, he's praiseworthy. Shlosha Shekara Dal Meshubach. And the same thing, if the third person got up and he laned the 4 psukim, that's also. If you had 3-3-4, 4-3-3, or 4 or 3-4-3, whichever person is doing it, they did the right thing. And now the Gemara is going to show how you see that each, whether first, second, or third, it's always that it's apropos that they should be doing 4. So the first one is Rishon Shekar Dal Meshubach. How do you know that if the first person reads 4 psukim that he's Meshubach? T'Tanan Shalosh Kupa Shel Shalosh Sin Sheben Tarmin Asalishka. That when they would give the Machzitz a shekel, so the Machzitz a shekel was given so that they'd be able to finance the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash. So what they would do is they would collect a Machzitz a shekel from each person, and they would put it into a basket. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, and they would write on each basket Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, so they would know which one the money was coming from, so they could know which one they're going to be taking out from first. Later, so that they'll know which one was done first, so they could take the money out from that one first. Shemitzvah barishon, because the mitzvah is to give from the first one. So you see that the first one is considered to be the elite. So therefore, it's praiseworthy if the first person gets up and he reads 4 psukim, then that's considered praiseworthy. And how do we know that if the middle person was the one that laid the 4 psukim, that he's going to be the one that's praiseworthy? The Tanya that we learned in the Brisa, it says in the pasuk Amol Pnei HaMenorah Yiru, that they would take the menorah. And they would light the 7 lamps that they were there. They would take the 7 lamps and they would that the Kohen would take the wicks of the lamp and he would of the menorah and he would turn it towards the Ner Ma'aravi, which was the middle lamp, and the Ner Ma'aravi klap Shechina, and the Ner Ma'aravi, the middle lamp, was turned towards the Shechina, towards the Aron. So you see, so from here you see everything was turned towards the middle was turned towards the Aron Kodesh. So you see from there that if the middle one is doing it, then that's going to be praiseworthy, and it's appropriate for the second person to be reading the 4 psukim. And how do we know the last one? And if the last one is going to read it, he's going to be praiseworthy. Why? Because we have a rule. You always go up in holiness, you don't go down. So the first person did 3, second person did 3, the third person does 4. You're supposed to go up in Kedusha, you're not supposed to go down, so that's why you do it. Rav Papa Iklo the Beis Knishta the Avi Gover. Rav Papa was on to the Beis Mikdash in the shul of this Avi Gover. The Kara Rishon Arba v'Shabchi Rav Papa, and the first person got up to Lane, and he did 4 psukim, and Rav Papa praised him for doing it. So again, that doesn't mean that that's the person that does it. It's just it was bringing a story that shows that the first one, but it could also bring a story that showed that the second or third would be fine also.
Did you say, Spero, that you could mix up, let's say, Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael? Like, we're seemingly giving Kohen as the first because it's a kibbutz. Maybe you could say, well, it's Malam B'Kodesh. We go from, Yisrael to Levi to Kohen.
Right.
To what the Gemara said, they didn't do.
Yeah, they didn't do it that way. In fact, the Gemara is going to talk later about the Kohen being the most chashuv.
Well, they didn't do this order at all.
They didn't. No, the Gemara is going to show that there were exceptions that they would give it to the most chashuv person there. We're going to do it tomorrow night.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a reason to come back tomorrow night. Okay, besides the schnitzel, besides maybe the schnitzel that they're going to have when Rabbi Silver gives a shir, then they got another reason to come up.
All
but okay. So then we said the next mission we said ain't postum heavy and musim that you're not able to do less than that, and you're not we're talking about Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos mincha. You can't do less than 10. You cannot do less than 3 people called up, and you don't add on to them either. So Tana, we learned that the first person makes the bracha beforehand, and the last person makes a bracha at the end. But nowadays, again, you come to shul, we all get an aliyah, we all make a bracha before and after. Why do we do that? What's the reason? Incredibly, the reason why we do it is because we are concerned about people that are coming in late to davening or people that are leaving early from davening. So we're afraid that if someone's going to come in late to davening and he's going to say, and he's not going to hear the first, like he comes in the middle of the aliyah and he's not there for the beginning of the aliyah, and then he sees that the next person gets up and he doesn't make a bracha. So so he's going to say, wait a second. So you don't make a bracha. He's not going to. He's going to say to himself, you don't make a bracha before you learn Torah. Before you do this, before you learn Torah. And then if the person's leaving early, he's not going to have heard the person before that made a bracha at the end of his aliyah. So he's going to think, wait a second, you don't make a bracha when you finish doing the aliyah. So incredibly, the Gemara, even though like normally you'd say, why don't you just tell people, get your act together and get to shul on time? And I didn't see an explanation why we worry about this. Maybe it's because it's teaching us that it's human nature that people are just going to come late and people are going to have to leave early for whatever reason. So because we're concerned about the people that are coming late and leaving early, so that's why we do it, that everyone makes a bracha before and after, so that people who are coming late, they'll be able to see that you're doing aliyah both sides. Okay, the next part of the Mishnah said, Rosh Chodashim u'Chol Shamoed Karn Arba, that when you have Rosh Chodesh and Chol Hamoed, so you would have 4 people that would be called up. So now we're going to spend now a few lines talking about how would you handle it. First of all, the rule you have to know is that when it talks about a parsha, it means a subject matter. It doesn't mean like a parsha, like we talk about parshas Vayakel, parshas Pekudei. When you have in the Torah where you have that it ends with a pei or with a samach, within each parak you can have different segments. That's the Gemara refers to that as a parsha. And secondly, there's a rule that we have that you cannot lay less than 3 psukim. You can't finish or start 2 psukim with less than 3 psukim from the front or from the back. You have to finish it, or you have to start when you have 3 psukim. So you cannot end the subject matter. So we're going to run into a problem now. Rosh Chodesh is going to be a big problem, which may already know how we handle it. But Rosh Chodesh is going to be a big problem. It's going to show because the psukim don't divide up evenly. So Ba'imine Ula Barav Meirava. Parshas Rosh Chodesh, Ketzad Karna. So how do we read the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh? What's the problem? It says, Tzavas B'nei Yisrael v'Amarta Alehem as Karbani Lachmi. To having Tami Psukim, it has 8 Psukim in it. So Heichin Navin, how do we lane that? Nikri Trey Tlasa Psukim. Do we say that we're going to have the first 2 people are going to get again? There's 8 psukim in the first when it talks about Tzavas B'nei Yisrael. So do we say that we're going to have 3 people get the first 2 people are going to get up and they're going to lane 3 psukim each? You're going to have a problem. Why? Pashalahu Trey. You're going to have 2 psukim left over. And we learned that you cannot have less than you don't finish a parsha with less than 3 psukim. And again, the reason why the Gemara is going to say is because we're afraid that a person's going to come in and think that you're laying less than 3 psukim. If a person's leaving early, he's going to see, there's only 2 psukim left, and he says it must be you can lay 2 psukim when you start reading from the Torah. So you can't do 3-3-2 because again we're going to have 2 psukim. That's what Gemara is going to say. Yeah, that's what I said. Now we know because go to Shalom Rosh Chodesh, so you know that they go back and read a pasuk over. The Gemara didn't know that yet, so the Gemara is going to be talking about that right now. This is where we get it from. So if you're going to have 2-2, if you're going to have 3-3, so you can't do that because you're going to have 2 psukim left. So nikri arba. If you're going to have the first 2 are going to get up and they're going to read 4 apiece, right? So that means that they're finishing up the parsha of Tzavas B'nei Yisrael. That's still a problem. Why? Pashalahu Shiva. So then you have 7 psukim left because you're going to have Yom HaShabbos and Rosh Chodashim. You're going to have those 2 parshios left. Again, parsha meaning the segment that the subject matter that it's talking about. Yom HaShabbos Havya Trey. That's 2 psukim. Rosh Chodashim Havya Chamisha. That's 5. Heichin. What are you doing? You still have 2 people left to call up, because again, it's 4 people called up on Rosh Chodesh. What are you doing? Nikra Trey Mehav Echad Mahanach. If you're going to say that you're going to have the 3rd person is going to read 2 psukim, and then he's going to read 1 pasuk from the next from Rosh Chodashim turning to Chav Beis Amud Aleph. You can't do that. Ain't maschil b'parsha pachos m'shlosh psukim. You can't start a parsha from when you have less than 3 psukim, because, like we said, we're afraid that someone's going to leave early after the first 2 aliyahs, and he's going to think, you could lay in a part, you could read from the Torah only 2 psukim. Likri trei meha utlas mehach. If you're going to say that you should have that the 3rd person is going to read the 2 psukim, and then he's going to read 3 more pashalu trei, then the 4th person is only going to be left with 2 psukim. The numbers work. You take my word for it. The numbers work.
But we have a total of 8, right? I'm missing something. We have 8, right? That's how they go, right? 8 psukim.
No, 8 is the first segment. Then you have another 7. You have 15 total.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So again, you're going to have a problem now, because if you're going to have the last 7 left, so if you're going to split it up, then you're going to have 2 left over when he's laning it. So that's also, you can't, again, because we have this, just remember that you can't have 2 psukim left in the beginning and when you're doing it. So what are you going to do? So Amar Lo, so he said to him, okay, you're right, you got a problem. How are you going to handle Rosh Chodesh? So he said to him, Zulo Shamati, I didn't hear an answer about Rosh Chodesh, but I saw somewhere else where there was another situation, and in that situation, we're going to be able to learn out from there to be able to tell you what the situation is with Rosh Chodesh. So what's it talking about? That it says, Kiyotzi B'Shamati, I heard a similar case. The Tanam, we learned that when it's talking about the Ma'amados, remember the Ma'amados were that they would have 24 groups that were assigned, that some of them served in the Beis HaMikdash, and the rest of them would be reading from the Ma'aseh Bereshis. They would be reading different portions of the Torah. So we learned the Tanam B'Yom Rishon Bereshis V'Yihirakia. The first day, the Mamados, this group that was reading from the Torah, they would read from Maisa Bereshis and the Parsha of Yihirakia. The Tani Allah, we learned again. There's going to be a problem with the numbers of the psukim. Bereshis B'Shnayim Yihirakia B'Echad. That the first Bereshis has 2 psukim and Yihirakia has 1. It's okay to say that I'm sorry. Bereshis B'Shnayim, the Parsha Bereshis is read with 2 people, and Yehirakia is read with 1. So we explained Bishlama Yehirakia B'Echad. It's okay to say that the Parsha of Yehirakia is read with 1 person. Why? Did Tzlasa Psukim have it? Because it's 3 psukim, and we said 3 psukim. That's fine. That's the minimum that you have to lay in the psukim. That's not a problem. Ela Bereshis B'Shnayim. How are you going to do that? Chamishim Psukim havu. There's 5 psukim over there. V'Tanya Hakari B'Torah Yivchos M'Shlosha Psukim. That the person who's reading from the Torah should not do less than 3. So, and what did he? And then again, this is talking about Ma'amados. So, what did he answer there? The Itmar Allah, and we learned over there that there were 2 possibilities how to solve this problem with the 5 psukim. What did they do? Rav Amar Dolek. Rav says that you go back and you repeat the pasuk over again, okay, which is what we end up doing for Rosh Chodesh. Ushmuel Amar Posek, and Shmuel says that you take one of the psukim and you split it in 2, okay, so you're going to have 2.5 and 2.5, but that half a pasuk is going to be considered like a whole pasuk. So they argue about what it is. So the Gemara just says now, let's try to understand what's the reason why one said go repeat and one said to split it in half. So Rav Amar Doleg, Rav says that you go back and repeat the pasuk, my time, law and posik. Why did he say that you should split it up? That any part pasuk, which if Moshe Rabbeinu didn't make a separate pasuk, who are we to go ahead and to split it up and make it into a new pasuk now? Can't do that. And Shmuel Amar Paskinale. Shmuel says that you do divide it. Why? But Rav Chanina said he was like an expert teacher, and he said, Sar Gadol Hayali Eitzer Rav Chanina Gadol, that I had a lot of trouble when I was trying to teach the children. I was trying to teach them Torah, and I was by Rav Chanina Gadol. Below Hitrli Lifsok El Tinoka Shel Beis Rabban. He only let me split up when it was to teach children, because you can't tell kids, you got to learn the whole pasuk. It's impossible for them to learn the whole pasuk. So he understood, you have to split the pasuk. Because whole Islam, because for them, it was easy for them to be able to learn it, in order to understand it. So he says, so how could he say that you're going to split it up, that you'd be able to split it? So he said, Hasam time am I, what's the reason by the children? We said that you're able to split up the pasuk into 2. Why? Because Mishum to Lefsher. It's impossible to teach them. You can't teach a kid. You can't keep jamming knowledge down a kid's head. You know, if he's not able to learn, he's not able to learn. So you do a half a pasuk, because that's the best way he's able to learn. Hachanami lo efsher. So too in the case of the Mamados, the parsha is written the way that the parsha is written. So therefore he says, you have 5 psukim. You have to do something. So he says, so we split it because that's the way that we're going to end up doing it. Because 2.5 will become a 3rd pasuk now. So, and Shmuel Amar Posek, and Shmuel says that you split it. My time alarm dog. Why does he say that you repeat it? So he says because we're afraid because of the people again that are going in and coming out. Because again, if you're going to leave, you're going to have 2 psukim left in the parsha. So what do? We go back now and we read the 3rd last pasuk. We repeat it again. But if someone's leaving shul early, he's not going to know that they're going to be repeating the parsha. So he's going to think that to himself. So you could do it. Does 2 psukim. He doesn't know about the skipping. We'll just go a little bit more and then we'll stop. So they asked the question, Mesa, Parsha shel Shishim Psukim, Karnas HaMishnayim, that if you have a Parsha of 6 Psukim, you could read it by 2 people. The Shel Chamisha Psukim b'Yachin, and if you have 5 Psukim, you're able to have, only one person will read it. So Kar Rishon Shlosha, if the first person read 3 Psukim, Asheni Kari Shnayim Parsha Zu, Ve'echem Parsha Achares. The second person doesn't read 2 psukim, he doesn't repeat, he doesn't skip. What does he do? He reads 2 psukim that are left here, and then he goes into the new Parsha goes into the next segment that we're talking about. Some people say, which is actually the way that we paskin, that he doesn't just read 1 pasuk in the next Parsha. He has to read 3 psukim so that you're into, again, this concept of 3 psukim that have to be read. Because you're not able to start with less than 3 psukim. So the Gemara says now, if you're holding like Rav and Shmuel like we had before by the Ma'amados, why don't we say, Lamanda Amar Do like the Niglo, according to the Mandam it says, that you repeat it, so let him go back and repeat it. Why do you have to go back and say that you're going to read another 3 psukim afterwards, let him just read the 1 pasuk over. Or Lamad Amar Posek Nifsuk, according to the one that says that you should split it in 2, let him just split it in 2. Again, why do you have to go into reading a whole new parsha? So Gemara answers, Shani Hasam de Efshar B'Hachi. The reason why we say that you're able to do it is because it's Efshar to do it. What does that mean? Because remember, we're talking about laning for Monday and Thursday. Monday and Thursday is a snippet of what the upcoming, it's coming attractions, right? You come to Shul Monday morning, what's the coming attraction? Vayakel. That's what we're doing this Shabbos. Thursday, you come to Shul. What are we doing? Vayakel, we're doing it. So we lane till Sheni. But if there was a situation where you had 2 psukim that were left at the end, we say, go another 3 psukim into the next parsha, because it's still coming attractions about Vayakel. It's all talking about one subject matter. So it's not like you're reading a new parsha in a new subject matter. It's all one parsha of the parsha of that week. So that's why we said you're able to do it for that. Okay, we will stop here and continue tomorrow night.